My phone buzzed against the hotel nightstand at 3 in the morning. I reached for it carefully, trying not to wake Nathan beside me. The screen lit up with Thomas's name, and my blood ran cold. He never called this late. Never. "Hey, honey," I whispered, slipping out of bed and into the bathroom. "Everything okay?" "Where are you?" His voice was strange, flat, wrong. "Orlando, remember? The medical conference." The lie rolled off my tongue so easily after all these years. "Why are you calling so late? Is Emma okay?" "Emma's fine. She's at her friend's house." A pause. "I found your suitcase last night, Alyssa. I was looking for the Christmas lights in the garage, and I found it." The bathroom tiles felt ice cold under my bare feet. "What suitcase?" "The one in the garage, with all your souvenirs, from all those places you never told me about." My mind raced. That old suitcase. I thought I'd thrown it out years ago. How could I have been so stupid? Nathan stirred in the other room, and I closed the bathroom door quietly. "Thomas, I can explain." "Can you? Can you explain the keychains from Miami? The postcards from Nashville? Because I don't remember you ever mentioning conferences in those cities." "My name is Alyssa. I'm 43 years old, and I've been married to Thomas for 10 years. For the last 5 of those years, I've been living a double life. And from the sound of my husband's voice, it was all about to come crashing down." "It's not what you think," I said, knowing how pathetic that sounded. "Isn't it? Because I think you've been lying to me, for years." I could picture him in our house in Norwalk, probably sitting at the kitchen table where we'd shared thousands of meals, where Emma did her homework, where we'd planned our future. The kitchen table where I'd told him about so many fake conferences, fake meetings, fake emergencies that required me to leave town. "Thomas, please, let me come home. We can talk about this." "Are you with him right now?" His voice cracked slightly. "Nathan?" He knew Nathan's name. Oh God, how much did he know? "I'm alone," I lied. Another lie on top of thousands of others. Just don't. I've seen the emails, Alyssa. I've seen the credit card statements. I know you're with him. I've had questions for a while. Once I found the suitcase last night, it all made sense. I went digging. Emails, credit cards, all of it. The bathroom walls seemed to close in on me. This wasn't supposed to happen. I'd been so careful. 5 years of being careful, and now... "I'm coming home," I said. "Right now, we need to talk." "No." His voice was firm now, cold. "Finish your conference. We'll talk when you get back, if you even bother coming back." The line went dead. I stood there in that hotel bathroom, 1,000 miles from home, and felt my carefully constructed world beginning to crumble. I should start at the beginning. Explain how I became this person, a liar, a cheater, a woman who could betray the man who loved her for 5 years straight. But even I don't fully understand it. Thomas and I met 12 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. He was different from the guys I usually dated. Steady, reliable, maybe a little boring if I'm being honest. He worked in IT for an insurance company, drove a sensible Honda, and called his mother every Sunday. After years of dating musicians and bartenders and guys who thought commitment was remembering your name in the morning, Thomas felt like finding solid ground. He pursued me with quiet determination. Flowers delivered to my office, actual phone calls instead of texts. Dinner reservations at nice restaurants where he'd pull out my chair and ask about my day like he really wanted to know. When he proposed 2 years later, on one knee in the park where we'd had our first kiss, I said yes without hesitation. The wedding was small but perfect. My daughter Emma, who was 9 then, wore a purple dress and served as my maid of honor. She'd been calling Thomas Dad for 6 months already, and when he included special vows just for her during the ceremony, I cried genuine tears. This was it, I thought, my happily ever after. For 5 years, it was good. Really good. Thomas embraced being Emma's stepfather with enthusiasm. He went to every school play, every parent-teacher conference, every soccer game. He taught her to code, built her a gaming computer, stayed up late helping with science projects. He was everything Emma's biological father had never been, and he was good to me too. Attentive, supportive, faithful. He remembered anniversaries, brought me coffee in bed, rubbed my feet after long days at the hospital where I worked in pharmaceutical sales. When my mother got sick, he took time off work to help care for her. When she died, he held me while I sobbed for days. So how did I end up in a hotel room with another man while my husband discovered 5 years of lies? It started with Nathan. Isn't it always how these stories begin? Nathan worked for a competing pharmaceutical company. We met at an industry conference in Atlanta, a real conference, ironically. He was charming in an obvious way that Thomas wasn't. Where Thomas was steady and predictable, Nathan was exciting and spontaneous. Where Thomas brought me flowers, Nathan brought adventure. "You're married," he said on our third night of flirting over conference cocktails. "You're observant," I replied, not bothering to hide my wedding ring. "Happily?" I should have said yes, should have walked away. Instead, I said, "That's complicated." It wasn't complicated. Not really. I was bored. That's the ugly truth. After 5 years of the same routine, the same conversations, the same married sex on Saturday nights, I was bored out of my mind. Thomas was a good man, but good had become synonymous with dull. Nathan was based in Orlando, a 3-hour flight from our home in Norwalk. When he suggested I visit, I knew what would happen. I went anyway. That first trip, I told Thomas I was attending a follow-up conference. He drove me to the airport, kissed me goodbye, told me to text when I landed safely. I spent 3 days with Nathan, doing things I hadn't done since my 20s. We went to clubs, drank too much, had sex in the afternoon. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. The guilt afterward was crushing. I came home to Thomas and Emma, to our normal life, and felt like a monster. I swore it would never happen again. I meant it. But Nathan kept texting, kept calling, and 3 months later when he invited me to visit again, I went. The lies became easier. Pharmaceutical sales involved lots of travel anyway. I'd schedule real work trips to Chicago or Boston, then extend them by a few days to see Nathan. Or I'd invent conferences entirely. Thomas never questioned it. He trusted me completely. "How was the conference?" he'd ask when I got home. "Boring," I'd say. "Lots of PowerPoints about drug interactions." He'd laugh, help me unpack, never noticing the guilt written all over my face. Or maybe he did notice and just couldn't believe his wife would betray him so thoroughly. The souvenirs were my biggest mistake. Nathan and I would explore whatever city we met in. Orlando, Miami, Nashville, San Antonio. He'd buy me little things, keychains and postcards and shot glasses. I couldn't display them at home, obviously, but I couldn't throw them away either. They were proof that those moments were real, that I wasn't just imagining this other life I'd created. So I kept them in an old suitcase in the garage, hidden behind Christmas decorations and camping gear we never used. I thought it was safe there. Thomas never went through old stuff. Emma found out 2 years ago. She was 17, smart as hell, and apparently more observant than her stepfather. She'd noticed things. How I'd come back from trips with a slight tan despite attending indoor conferences. How I'd sometimes forget which city I'd supposedly been to. How I'd silence my phone when certain texts came through. One day she confronted me directly. "Who is he?" "Who's who?" I tried to play dumb. "The guy you're seeing, when you're supposedly at conferences." The look on her face, disappointment mixed with disgust, nearly killed me. This was my daughter, my baby girl, and she was looking at me like I was a stranger. "It's complicated," I said. "No, it's not. You're cheating on Dad, the only actual dad I've ever had." "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You're selfish, you're a liar, and you're going to destroy our family." She was right, of course, but I begged her not to tell Thomas. Promised I'd end it with Nathan. Swore I'd be better. And somehow, maybe because she loved Thomas too much to break his heart, or maybe because some part of her still loved me despite everything, she agreed to keep my secret. But I didn't end it. I tried, multiple times. I'd text Nathan that we were done, that I couldn't do this anymore. He'd talk me out of it, or I'd talk myself out of it. The truth was, I didn't want to give him up. I wanted both lives, the stable one with Thomas and the exciting one with Nathan. Emma became my reluctant accomplice. She'd cover for me when I needed it, tell Thomas I'd called when I hadn't. I could see it killing her, the weight of this secret. She started pulling away from both of us, spending more time at friends' houses, barely speaking at dinner. When she left for college last year, I could see the relief in her eyes. Finally, she could escape the toxic household I'd created. "You're ruining her," Thomas said one night after another silent dinner. "She's just being a teenager," I replied. "No, something's wrong. She used to talk to us. Now she can barely look at you." He was so close to the truth, but still couldn't see it, or wouldn't let himself see it. Now, standing in that hotel bathroom with my marriage imploding via phone call, I thought about all the chances I'd had to stop this. Every time I booked a flight to see Nathan. Every time I lied to Thomas's trusting face. Every time I made Emma carry my secret. I could have stopped at any point. I chose not to. Nathan was awake when I came out of the bathroom. "Who was that?" "Thomas. He knows." Nathan sat up, suddenly alert. "Knows what?" "About us. About everything." "Shit." He ran his hands through his hair. "How?" "Does it matter?" We sat in silence for a moment. Nathan and I had never really discussed what would happen if we got caught. I think we both assumed we were too smart, too careful. Or maybe we just didn't care about consequences when we were together. "So what now?" he asked finally. "I don't know, I have to go home, face him." "And then what? You leave him? We finally do this for real?" I looked at Nathan then, really looked at him. 45 years old, never married, commitment issues deeper than the ocean. Did I really think he'd want me full-time? Did I even want him that way? Or was he just an escape from a life that had become too predictable? "I need to think," I said. "Sure, think." His tone made it clear what he thought would happen. I'd go home, Thomas would forgive me eventually, and nothing would change. We'd continue our affair, maybe more carefully this time. But he didn't know Thomas like I did. My husband was slow to anger but absolute in his decisions. If he'd found the suitcase, the emails, the credit card statements, then he'd found everything. There would be no forgiveness, no second chances. I'd burned that bridge with 5 years of lies. I flew home that morning, leaving Nathan in the hotel bed where I'd spent so many stolen nights. During the flight, I tried to figure out what I'd say to Thomas. How do you explain 5 years of deception? How do you justify the unjustifiable? The house was quiet when I got home. Thomas's car was in the driveway, but he didn't come to greet me. I found him in the kitchen, sitting at our table with a cup of coffee and a manila folder. "Hi," I said stupidly. He looked up at me with eyes I didn't recognize. The warmth was gone, replaced by something cold and final. "Sit down," he said. I sat across from him, the table between us feeling like an ocean. 5 years, he said. "You've been lying to me for 5 years. "Thomas?" "I don't want to hear excuses or explanations. I just want to know one thing. Why?" Why? Such a simple question with such a complicated answer. Because I was bored. Because Nathan made me feel young. Because I could. Because I'm selfish. Because I never thought I'd get caught. "I don't know," I said finally. "You don't know?" He laughed bitterly. 5 years of lies and you don't know why? He opened the manila folder. Inside were printouts, emails between Nathan and me, credit card statements with highlighted charges, hotel reservations, flight confirmations, my whole secret life laid out in black and white. "You were thorough," I said. "I had to be. I couldn't believe it at first. Kept thinking there had to be some explanation. My wife wouldn't do this to me. Not Alyssa. Not the woman I married." "I'm still that woman." "No." His voice was sharp. "That woman wouldn't have done this. That woman wouldn't have made our daughter lie for her." "How did you?" "I talked to Emma. After I found everything else, I called her. She broke down crying, told me everything. How you made her cover for you. How she's been carrying this secret for over a year. My heart shattered. Emma, my baby girl, forced to choose between her mother's lies and her stepfather's trust. What kind of mother does that to her child? I never meant to get caught. I'm sure you didn't. Thomas took a sip of his coffee, hands steady. I've already seen a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce. I want you out of this house today. Today? Thomas, please, let's talk about this. We have 10 years together. No, we don't. We have 5 years built on lies. The first 5 were real. These last 5, they're nothing. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. Go to your sister's. Go to a hotel. Go to Nathan. He spit out the name like it tasted bad. Just get out of my house. It's my house, too. Not anymore. He slid another paper across the table. I've withdrawn our joint savings, $44,000. I've taken $22,000, my half. The rest is yours. That should be enough to get you started somewhere else. You can't just... I can and I have. My lawyer says you can fight it if you want. Drag this out, make it ugly. Is that what you want? I looked at him, this man who'd loved me so faithfully, who'd raised my daughter as his own, who'd never given me a single reason to doubt him. And I'd repaid that love with 5 years of betrayal. No, I whispered. Good, then pack your things and go. I stood on shaky legs. What about Emma? Emma's an adult. She can make her own choices about whether she wants you in her life. But I'll tell you this, she's disgusted with you, with what you did to me, to our family. You broke her heart long before you broke mine. The tears came then, hot and unstoppable. But Thomas didn't comfort me. He just sat there, cold and unmoved, waiting for me to leave. I packed what I could fit in my car, 10 years of life reduced to boxes and suitcases. As I loaded the last bag, our neighbor Mrs. Chen watched from her garden, probably wondering what was happening. By tomorrow, the whole neighborhood would know. Alyssa cheated. Alyssa got kicked out. Alyssa destroyed her family. Thomas didn't say goodbye. Didn't watch me leave. When I drove away from our house for the last time, he was still sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. I went to my sister's house in Bridgeport. She took me in, but I could see the judgment in her eyes. She'd warned me about Nathan, told me I was playing with fire. I hadn't listened. Emma wouldn't return my calls. I texted, left voicemails, even wrote old-fashioned letters. Nothing. My daughter had cut me out of her life completely, and I couldn't blame her. I'd forced her to carry my lies, made her complicit in my betrayal. What kind of mother does that? Nathan called a few times, wanting to know when he could see me again. The sound of his voice made me sick now. All those stolen moments that had felt so thrilling, so worth the risk, they were nothing, meaningless. I'd thrown away a good man for what? For some excitement? For afternoon sex in hotel rooms? I told Nathan we were done. He didn't fight very hard to change my mind. The divorce was swift and brutal. Thomas had documented everything meticulously. My lawyer said I could fight for more money, maybe the house, but what was the point? I'd already taken everything that mattered from him, his trust, his love, his faith in people. My sister's friend saw Thomas at the grocery store a month after I left. Said he looked terrible, thin, exhausted, aged 10 years. The man who'd always been so steady, so reliable, was falling apart because of me. He'll bounce back, my sister said. Men always do. He'll find someone new, someone better. But I knew Thomas. He wouldn't bounce back, wouldn't just find someone new. I'd broken something fundamental in him. The man who used to trust completely would never trust again. The man who loved with his whole heart would keep that heart locked away forever. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into an old mutual friend at Starbucks. She was polite but cold, clearly picking sides in the divorce. But she told me something that made my heart stop. Thomas quit his job, she said. Sold the house. Nobody I've talked to knows where he went. What do you mean where he went? He just left. Told his brother he needed to start over somewhere where nothing reminded him of you. Didn't say where he was going. I stood there in that Starbucks holding my overpriced latte and realized the full extent of what I'd done. I hadn't just ended our marriage. I'd driven him away from everything. His job, his home, his life. Thomas had erased himself rather than live with the memories of what we'd had. That night I tried calling his brother, his friends, anyone who might know where he'd gone. Nobody would tell me anything. Whether they didn't know or just wouldn't say, I couldn't tell. His phone number was disconnected. He'd blocked me on every social media platform before deleting his accounts entirely. Even his email bounced back. Thomas hadn't just left. He'd digitally erased himself from any possible contact with me. Emma finally responded to one of my texts 6 months after everything fell apart. Just one line. I hope it was worth it. Was it worth it? 5 years of lies for what? Nathan was already dating someone new. I was living in a cramped apartment in Bridgeport, working reception at a dermatology clinic just to pay the bills. Nothing client-facing, nothing close to sales. They didn't care about my reputation, just that I showed up sober and on time. Everyone in the pharmaceutical sales industry knew why I'd traveled so much. The woman who cheated on conferences, the woman who couldn't be trusted. At night, I lay in my single bed and thought about Thomas. Where was he? What was he doing? Had he found peace wherever he'd run to? Or was he as miserable as I was? I thought about our wedding day, how he'd looked at me like I was his whole world. I thought about Sunday mornings in bed, coffee and crossword puzzles and comfortable silence. I thought about him teaching Emma to drive, patient and calm, even when she backed into the mailbox. I thought about 10,000 moments I'd taken for granted, thrown away for 5 years of cheap thrills. My therapist says I have to forgive myself, move forward, build a new life. But how do you forgive yourself for destroying someone who loved you? How do you move forward when you've burned every bridge behind you? How do you build a new life when you've proven you'll just wreck it eventually? It's been a year now since Thomas found that suitcase. A year since my double life came crashing down. I still don't know where he is. Sometimes I imagine I see him, in a crowd, across a parking lot, in the car next to me at a red light. But it's never him. He's vanished completely, started over somewhere I can't follow. Emma's in her 2nd year of college now. She sent me a birthday card last month, just signed her name, nothing else. But it was something. Maybe someday she'll forgive me. Maybe someday I'll forgive myself. But Thomas? Thomas is gone forever. Not dead, but might as well be. I killed the man he was, the man who trusted and loved completely. Whatever's left of him, wherever he is, that man is a stranger now. A stranger I created with 5 years of lies. I keep that old suitcase, the one that started it all. Sometimes I open it and look at those pathetic souvenirs. Keychains and postcards from a life that was never real. Evidence of choices that cost me everything. Was it worth it? Emma asked. No, God no, it wasn't worth anything at all.